Hey, welcome back to your behavior code. In this video, we're going to talk about something almost nobody admits out loud. Why you keep struggling alone, even when help is right there. Why asking for it feels so wrong, so weak, so dangerous. The reason goes deeper than you think, and it was put there a long time ago. So sit back, because this one might be the most personal video we've made yet. And if you're new here, subscribe and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more than you think. You were drowning, not literally, but you know the feeling. The weight of something you couldn't handle alone. A problem, a situation, a pain that was becoming too much, and the help was available. Someone who would have said yes without hesitation. A resource that existed exactly for this moment, but you didn't ask. You told yourself you'd figure it out. You told yourself it wasn't that bad. You told yourself you didn't want to be a burden, and you kept sinking. So here's the question nobody asks. Why does asking for help feel like the hardest thing in the world, even when it's the most logical thing you could do? Stay with me, because the answer will change how you see every struggle you've ever faced alone. You do this too. Think about the last time you needed help and didn't ask for it. Maybe it was at work, staying silent while you fell further behind, convinced you should know this by now. Maybe it was in a relationship, carrying something heavy alone because you didn't want to seem needy. Maybe it was something physical, emotional, financial, and you smiled and said, "I'm fine," to everyone who asked. Here's something that might surprise you. A study from Harvard Business School found that people dramatically overestimate how much asking for help will make them look weak or incompetent. They agonize over the decision for days. They rehearse excuses. They find workarounds. And in the end, when they finally do ask, the people around them rate them as more capable, not less. You thought asking would make you look smaller. It actually made you look bigger. But knowing that doesn't make it easier. Because the fear isn't really about what others think. It goes much deeper than that. It always does. The science. Here's what's actually happening when you can't bring yourself to ask. Your brain treats a request for help as a threat assessment, not a practical decision, a survival calculation. And somewhere in that calculation, a very old equation runs. Needing help equals vulnerability. Vulnerability equals danger. This isn't irrational. For most of human history, showing weakness in a group, admitting you couldn't hunt, couldn't fight, couldn't contribute, was genuinely dangerous. It risked exclusion, and exclusion for early humans meant death. Your brain still runs that program, but there's another layer that sits on top of the evolutionary one. And this one was built much more recently. Psychologists call it learned self-reliance, and it begins in childhood. Every time a child was told, "Figure it out yourself." Every time they were praised for not crying. Every time vulnerability was met with dismissal, impatience, or ridicule. A belief was quietly installed. Needing others is a weakness. Handling it alone is strength. And that belief doesn't stay in childhood. It follows you into every meeting, every relationship, every moment you're drowning and smiling at the same time. There's also a third force at work, something called the Pratfall of Perceived Competence. The more capable you appear to others, or to yourself, the more asking for help feels like a betrayal of that image. High achievers, people who are known as the reliable one, people who built their identity around being capable, these people suffer in silence the most, because asking isn't just a request. It feels like in confession, the dark side. But here's where it gets heavier. The inability to ask for help doesn't just cost you time and energy. It costs you something you can't get back. Research from the University of Houston, led by vulnerability researcher Brené Brown, found a direct link between the inability to ask for help and chronic feelings of shame. Not guilt, shame. The difference matters more than most people realize. Guilt says, "I did something bad." Shame says, "I am something bad." When you can't ask for help, you don't just struggle harder. You internalize the struggle as evidence of your inadequacy. Every day you carry it alone, the weight grows. Not just heavier, but more personal. The longer you suffer in silence, the more the suffering feels like proof that you were right to hide it. It becomes a closed loop, and it gets tighter with every passing day. The silence feeds the shame. The shame deepens the silence, and nobody on the outside can see it happening. And it doesn't stop there. Studies on workplace burnout consistently show that the inability to ask for help is one of the strongest predictors of complete exhaustion and collapse. Not workload, not difficulty. The silence around the workload. People don't burn out because they work hard. They burn out because they work hard alone, convinced that admitting they need support will cost them more than the burnout itself. There's also a social cost that almost nobody talks about. When you never ask for help, you accidentally send a message to the people around you. I don't need you. And over time, that message creates distance. The people who would have helped, who wanted to help, quietly stop offering. Not because they stopped caring, because you trained them to believe you didn't want it. The wall you built to protect yourself becomes the wall that isolates you. The twist. Here's the detail that reframes everything. Asking for help is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you understand how humans actually work. No significant thing in human history was built alone. Every breakthrough, every survival, every moment of genuine progress happened because someone said, "I need help with this," and someone else said yes. The lone wolf is a myth, and it's a myth that was sold to you deliberately. Psychologist Adam Grant, in his research on givers and takers, found something that almost nobody expects. The people who ask for help most effectively are also among the most successful and most liked, not despite their asking, because of it. When you ask someone for help, you do something powerful. You make them feel useful, trusted, and connected to you. You give them something. Most people want to help. They are waiting to be asked. And here's the most uncomfortable truth of all. The version of strength you were taught, silent, self-sufficient, needing nothing, was never about making you stronger. It was about making you easier to manage. A person who never asks for help never demands anything, never disrupts anything, never costs anyone anything. You weren't taught self-reliance because it serves you. You were taught it because it serves the system around you. Now what? So what do you actually do with this? First, start small. Ask for something low stakes today, not the big thing, a small thing. The research is clear. Asking gets easier with practice, and the first ask is always the hardest. You are not building weakness. You are dismantling a very old wall, one brick at a time. Second, separate the request from your worth. Needing help with something does not mean you are less. It means the thing is hard. Those are not the same statement. Say it again. The thing is hard, not I am not enough. Third, remember what silence actually costs. Not just the practical cost of struggling longer than necessary, the relationship cost, the health cost, the slow, compounding price of a closed loop that only tightens. You were not born afraid to ask. You were taught to be, by people who were also taught, in a world that confused silence with strength for a very long time. The most courageous thing you can do, right now, today, is say 2 words to someone you trust. I'm struggling. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of everything. If this hit closer to home than you expected, share it with someone who might need permission to ask. And if you want to understand the next hidden pattern running your life without your knowledge, that video is already up.